Millionaire goes undercover as a janitor to find his son's MOM. Then the shocking truth unfolds. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead in the dimly lit, echoing corridors of Ridgeway High, amplifying the dread hanging in the air. It was a place of secrets, a territory where whispers painted stories of heartbreak and lost dreams. Here, even the walls seemed to breathe heaviness, as if they were witnesses to the emotional trials of every student. Among the clutter of abandoned lockers and sticky notes, one man stood out, a tall figure cloaked in faded blue coveralls, a disguise for the life he had left behind. Meet Jack Turner, the millionaire who traded his penthouse for a mop bucket on a mission deeper than anyone could imagine. As Jack pushed the mop across the cold, tile floor, memories of his son danced at the edges of his mind like ghostly specters. Lost in this world of youthful chaos, he hoped to unearth the truth about Alex's mother. When they split, she vanished like smoke in the wind, leaving Jack with nothing but questions and a persistent ache in his heart. What was she hiding? Who was she now? The deeper he dived into this school underbelly, the more dark secrets seeped from its cracks. There were kids sharing furtive looks, a group whispering in the shadows, their faces painted with anxiety, and just when he thought it couldn't get weirder, he stumbled upon a crumpled flyer lying on the floor, missing, Clarissa Blake, last seen on April 15th. Reward for information. It tugged at his gut, and he instinctively pocketed it, the urge to piece it all together overwhelming. The name echoed in his head. Clarissa. Was there a connection? The hairs on the back of his neck prickled as suspense thickened the air. Could this mystery lead him to the very person he sought? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. His heart raced as the bell rang, a jarring sound spilling life back into the hallways. Students poured out of classrooms, faces bright with joy or dark with despair. Among the tide of bodies, he spotted a girl with ink-stained fingers and a haunted look in her eyes. She turned briefly, her gaze locking on his for a split second before darting away. That moment sent adrenaline shooting through his veins. Who was she? What did she know? Jack's pulse thundered in his ears as he followed her down the winding corridors, each step echoing his urgent desperation. What lay ahead? Answers. More questions. The walls seemed to whisper secrets he couldn't yet grasp, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the closer he got to the truth, the more dangerous it became. And just as he rounded the corner, everything changed. The world skidded to a halt, and he stood, frozen, facing the very woman he had been searching for all these years. The woman before him was a ghost made flesh. Her long hair was disheveled, framing a face that spoke of hardships and secrets long buried. There she stood, Clarissa Blake, the name that had clawed at Jack's mind since he discovered that flyer. The air felt thick with tension, every second stretching out painfully as they stared at each other, disbelief mingling with the chaos around them. Was it really her? Jack. She uttered, her voice trembling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. The sound hit him like a freight train, awakening every memory he'd fought to forget. Hearing her say his name ignited a spark of hope, but it was overshadowed by a wave of uncertainty. Why was she here? What had dragged her into this dark chapter of their lives? Clarissa, he managed, his throat dry, words stirred with desperation. The crowd of students hustled past, unaware of the storm brewing in this pocket of the school. Jack felt exposed, vulnerable under the eyes of 100 strangers. I've been looking for you. The haunted look in her eyes deepened, a flicker of fear darting across her face. Looking? Or hunting? She shot back defensively, her bravado faltering. What is it to you now? Jack's heart sank. Her tone was sharp, but it was tinged with truth. He hadn't just come to find her, he'd come with accusations, with a simmering rage fueled by betrayal. I need to know what happened. Why did you disappear? Why did you leave Alex? The words spilled out, soaked with pain and confusion. As if sensing his turmoil, Clarissa's resolve crumbled. It's not that simple. You don't understand what I was dealing with, what I still am. She took a hesitant step forward, narrowing the gap between them. The flickering lights around them cast eerie shadows that danced along the walls like specters. A flurry of emotions churned inside Jack. Was she a victim? A perpetrator? Help me understand, then, he pleaded, desperation clawing his throat. Where have you been? Before Clarissa could respond, the school intercom crackled to life, shattering the fragile moment. Students, we have a situation. Stay in your classrooms. I repeat, stay in your classrooms. Panic washed over the sea of students, confusion sparking chaos in the already tense atmosphere. Jack's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Clarissa by the elbow, pulling her aside into a dimly lit alcove away from the frantic swarm. What the hell is going on? He hissed, watching the fear in her eyes deepen. I can't tell you here, she whispered urgently, glancing back towards the open hallway. You have to trust me. You're in danger too. The words hung in the air like an ominous cloud, suffocating and heavy. Jack quivered with both fear and resolve. Danger? From who? Her eyes darted around, as though shadows were creeping in closer, threatening to envelop them. There's so much you don't know about me, about Alex. It's bigger than you think. If we're not careful, we could lose everything again. Jack's world tilted, his mind racing with the implications. He had come seeking answers, but now he was at the precipice of something far more sinister. As the hushed tension enveloped them, a sudden crash echoed from the far end of the hall, followed by frantic shouting. Jack's heart raced. The danger was real, and they were caught in its crosshairs. Run! Clarissa shouted, her voice breaking through the panic as she grabbed his hand, pulling him along. We have to get out of here. They dashed through the labyrinth of halls, Jack's mind spinning with a chaotic blend of fear and urgency. Who was hunting them? Could they trust each other? The answers felt more elusive than ever. Suddenly, a shadow loomed ahead, blocking their path. Jack skidded to a halt, realizing he wasn't just chasing a past that haunted him, he was stepping into a nightmare he never saw coming. What would they find waiting for them on the other side? Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he stared down the hulking figure before him. It was a man, tall and broad, with a face obscured by a hood. The shadows contorted his features, making him seem more like a monster than a human. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the terror that radiated from Jack and Clarissa. Is this how you wanted to reunite? The man growled, voice low and gravelly. Two lost souls caught in a web of their own making. What do you want? Jack managed to choke out, instinctively stepping closer to Clarissa. She squeezed his hand harder, her eyes wide with fear. Oh, the better question is what you both have stirred up, the man said, taking a step forward, his intentions unreadable. You think you can just waltz back into each other's lives? There are consequences for that. Clarissa's voice quivered as she spoke, you're not supposed to be here. You don't know what's at stake. The panic in her tone sent a chill down Jack's spine. Who was this man to intimidate someone like Clarissa? Honestly, I don't care about either of you, he sneered, waving a hand dismissively. But I will make sure you don't interfere with the plans we've set in motion. When people start asking questions, you might find out how deep this goes. The occupation of Jack's mind shifted as he felt a surge of protective instinct. What are you talking about? He demanded. What plans? The man chuckled darkly. You should have thought about that long ago. Secrets have a price, and you've already begun to pay. He turned his back, seemingly satisfied that he had instilled fear. Consider this your warning. Stay away from Clarissa. With that, He melted back into the shadows, leaving Jack and Clarissa shaken. What was that about? Jack asked, voice trembling. Fear swirled inside him, tightening his throat. Who was he? What did he mean by plans? He glanced at Clarissa, searching for answers in her distressed expression. I shouldn't have come back to this town, she admitted. But I thought it was time to face the past. Face the past? Jack echoed incredulously. You have no idea what we're facing now. That guy, he was talking about secrets. What secrets? What does he know that we don't? Clarissa looked lost, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I thought I could just slip back in and take control. I didn't know any of this would happen. She took a shaky breath. There are things I didn't want to carry anymore, Jack. Ghosts that haunt me. Jack knew the weight she carried was heavy, but they had no time for personal histories. He grasped her hand more tightly. Then we need to find out what he knows. We can't let whatever this is push us into hiding again. It's too late for that. Clarissa hesitated, fear clouding her expression. And what if confronting this just puts us in more danger? Or worse? We just let whatever happened to us slip away again. Jack felt the fire of determination ignite in his soul. We're both here now, and there's no backing down. Voices echoed in the distance, growing closer. Jack's gut twisted with urgency. They needed to disappear before whoever that man was decided to come back. Follow my lead, Jack instructed, scanning their surroundings. There was an emergency exit nearby, just a few steps to the left. As they approached the door, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow felt alive, every whisper almost real. Something was brewing beyond the chaos of today. Something both personal and sinister. Jack pushed the door open, stepping into the unknown. Where do we go now? Clarissa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Anywhere but here, he replied, launching into the dark, chilly corridor. As they moved swiftly, the echo of footsteps amplified behind them, chasing them through the darkness. Jack's heart raced as they stumbled into a larger room. He glanced backward, expecting the worst. What they found in that room would change everything. The room was vast, filled with shadows and dust motes dancing in the flickering light. Jack's instincts screamed at him to leave, but he needed answers needed to understand. As they crept deeper into the gloom, the metallic scent of rust mixed with something sweeter and more acrid fear. Do you hear that? Clarissa whispered, her voice trembling that he did. The faintest sound of muffled conversations emerged from beyond a closed door on the far side of the room. Jack's heart raced, each beat a drum of urgency. We need to get closer, he said, pulling her along with him. They moved with silent urgency, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the ominous stillness. As they neared the door, Jack paused. He placed his ear against the cool wood, straining to listen. Words trickled through the thin barrier, like secrets leaking out of a cracked dam. No choice, we have to move before they catch on. There's been too much attention. A voice gruff and familiar sent a shiver down Jack's spine, that voice. It was the man from the shadows. What was he discussing? Jack looked at Clarissa, whose eyes mirrored his unease. Without another word, he motioned for her to back away. They needed a better plan. Too much was at stake. They found refuge in a dim corner where the light barely poured in. The adrenaline surged, but so did doubt. What if they find us? Clarissa's voice trembled as she pressed her back against the cold wall. What if it's worse than we think? Jack took a deep breath, forcing his racing thoughts to steady. We have to be ready for anything. But we can't let fear hold us back. We need to figure out what they're planning. He glanced toward the door again, the voices a constant taunting echo. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe. Her voice trailed off as realization flickered across her face. What if it goes beyond us, Jack? What if this is about them? Who? People from our past, our families. Her hands trembled as she spoke, weaving a connection that sent dread curling in Jack's stomach. What if they're involved in something ugly, and we're just pawns in a bigger game? Just then, the door creaked open, and the silhouette of a figure filled the frame. Jack's heart stopped. It was him. The man from before, standing in the doorway, scanning the room with piercing eyes that seemed to see everything. "Nothing here," he said dismissively, stepping away. "Let us move." With a push, he was gone, leaving Jack and Clarissa on the edge of realization. "Did you hear what he said?" Jack whispered urgently. "He's looking for something. Or someone. What do we do now?" Clarissa's voice was barely a whisper, fear lining every word. Before he could answer, a low rumble echoed through the room, shaking the floor beneath them. Jack's blood turned cold. The flickering lights overhead buzzed, struggling against the sudden power surge. "Jack!" Clarissa gripped his arm tighter. "What's happening? Brace yourself!" Jack shouted as the lights flickered and suddenly went out. Darkness engulfed them. Everything around them buzzed with uncertainty. Jack felt Clarissa's breath quicken, a warm rush of panic surging through them both. In total blackness, Jack took a step forward, instinctively reaching for Clarissa, but his hand grasped only air. Panic clutched his throat. "Clarissa!" Silence, then, a faint scream. "Clarissa!" Jack yelled, plunging into the suffocating dark to find her. What had they gotten themselves into? And where had she gone? One thought screamed above the chaos: he needed to find her before it was too late. Jack stumbled through the darkness, heart pounding hard against his ribcage. His mind raced, every thought consumed by the sound of Clarissa's scream echoing in his ears. He reached out, palms grazing the cold concrete walls that surrounded him. Each step created a disorienting echo, like whispers of ghosts urging him to turn back. "Clarissa!" He shouted again, desperation clawing at his throat. He strained to listen, hoping to catch a glimpse of her voice above the silence, but all that returned was a consuming void, amplifying his dread. The air felt thick, pressing against him as he moved forward, every second feeling like an eternity. He couldn't just stand there. He had to keep searching. He needed her. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life with a bright pop, illuminating the vast emptiness around him. Jack squinted as the reality of the room struck him: shelves lined with stacked boxes, a dirt-streaked window revealing nothing but night. But Clarissa was nowhere in sight. That he felt a rush of panic swell in him. Clarissa! Just as he was about to spiral into full-blown despair, he caught a movement from the corner of his eye. A shadow darting between the shelves. Jack's instincts fired. He dashed towards it, heart in his throat. "Hold on!" he shouted, knowing it might not be Clarissa but too desperate to care. The thought that someone else could be trapped here with him only added to his urgency. "Jack!" A voice broke through the distant echoes, trembling and frantic. "Clarissa! Where are you?" Relief and fear mingled as he raced toward the sound. "Over here. Help!" He rounded a corner, and there she was, huddled on the floor, eyes wide and glistening. His heart ached at the sight. She looked terrified, trembling as she latched onto him, almost as if grounding themselves. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. I thought I lost you." Her voice was shaky. "Not a chance. Let us get out of here." He hoisted her up, but the moment did little to ease the mounting tension. "What happened?" "I heard you scream." It wasn't just the dark. "I think I saw something. Someone." Her gaze shifted, fear still lingering in her expression. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, Jack. It was like a shadow moving so fast. I felt something brush against me." Before he could respond, a loud crash sounded from the back of the room, followed by the unmistakable sound of hurried footsteps. Jack's pulse quickened as the darkened corner filled with voices, the kind of voices that promised danger. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, pulling Clarissa close as he steadied his breath. "We have to go." She tugged at his arm, but Jack remained still, his instincts firing. "Wait. We need to know what they're up to." Each word felt like a gamble. They were already in deep. What more could they lose? Just then, the door he had first ventured near swung open again, flooding the room with harsh light. Shadows spilled out, and a group of men stepped inside, scanning the area intently. "There's something here," one of them said, voice gruff and commanding, echoing in Jack's head. "Search the area." Jack and Clarissa pressed against the wall, breaths held tight in their chests. He felt Clarissa's warmth against him, but the chill of terror was palpable. "Jack," she whispered, eyes darting toward the men. "What do we do?" His mind raced, thoughts colliding. They had to move, but every direction felt like a trap. They were tangled in something far more dangerous than they had anticipated. As the men began to spread out, Jack's gut twisted. He had to decide. Fight or flight. "On three, we make a run for it," he whispered, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Are you crazy?" Clarissa's eyes widened. They'll see us. They'll see us anyway if we stay. Trust me. We can't get caught." Jack grasped her hand and the room buzzed with tension. 1, 2 before he could say 3, the lights flickered again, then died once more, casting them back into darkness. Dense fear settled in their throats. The last thing Jack felt was the weight of dread. What do we do now? That question hung in the thick air, a haunting reminder that they were far from safe. In that moment, they were not just fighting for their own lives, but for the truth buried beneath layers of darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. What awaited them on the other side of that door? Would they escape with their secrets intact, or plunge deeper into dread? Jack's heart pounded mercilessly as silence closed in, wrapping around them like a shroud. Fear sliced through the darkness. He could barely hear Clarissa's breaths, but he felt the tension between them amplify with every second. "Stay close," he whispered, feeling their way along the wall, apprehension cracking through him like ice. Sudden footsteps echoed closer, every hurried step heavy with intent. Jack's gaze darted to the door they'd seen the men enter. It was their only hope, but the path to freedom felt impossibly far. He could almost taste the panic in the air, thick and suffocating. "Jack," Clarissa murmured, her grip tightening on his arm. "What if they shoot?" he urged sharply. "Let me think." His mind raced with possibilities, but there were no good outcomes looming. Just desperate choices. He had to protect her, but he also needed answers. The screaming shadow she had mentioned haunted him, making him question what they were really up against. Then, as if the shadows themselves conspired to deepen his chaos, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the space with a harsh brightness. Jack shielded his eyes as the sudden light revealed a grim tableau. The men, hulking and menacing, were still searching. "Quick, find a spot," Jack urged. They darted to an alcove behind a battered stack of boxes, pressing tightly against the coarse wall. Jack could feel his heart racing, the pulsating drum echoing in his ears. Peeking around the corner, he could see two men sifting through the area, their expressions grim. One of them glanced sideways, and Jack ducked back just in time. "I swear I saw something move," one man said. "I don't like this. We're not alone." "Then we find them." "Keep your eyes peeled," the other replied, determination lacing his words. "Why are they searching for us?" Clarissa whispered, her voice low but quavering with dread. "Something tells me we stumbled into something much bigger," Jack shot back, a bubbling anxiety churning in his stomach. Maybe they weren't the only ones in danger. Maybe they were chasing shadows they didn't understand. Suddenly, a loud crash ripped through the clamor of their heartbeats. Jack spun back to the men. Have they found out? He imagined the worst, being caught, facing whatever danger lurked within the walls of this desolate place. "Go!" he hissed. "We can't wait." He grabbed Clarissa's hand, the sweat from his palm mixing with hers as they squeezed through the narrow exit created by the teetering boxes. Trying to stay silent, emerging behind the shelves, they heard voices without trying to breathe. "Check the back room. The boss will want to know we're clear." "Let us move," the first man ordered. But as they turned to escape, the lights flickered once more then went out again. "Jack." Clarissa's voice was barely a whisper. "We're still here," he replied, panic igniting anew as he felt an unseen presence brushing past him, the air colder than before. An unsettling shiver crept down his spine. What was happening? Had they awakened something ancient in the shadows? Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but he held on to the need for answers. "Jack." Clarissa's voice trembled. "What if it's not just them? What if what I saw was real?" That question hung between them, heavy with dread, as a menacing sound slithered through the darkness. It was a low, guttural growl that sent bolts of ice coursing through Jack's veins. "Stay close," he breathed, forcing the words out over the growl that cut through the oppressive silence. "We need to figure out where we are and find a way out of here." With every step, Jack felt the weight of the approaching danger creep closer. They had stumbled into something much darker than either of them prepared to face. As they inched cautiously toward the door, Jack's senses screamed in alarm. The growl came again, deeper and more threatening. In that moment, Jack realized they weren't just running from the men, something far worse was lurking in the shadows. The door before them stood ajar, a potential escape hanging by a thread. But what lay beyond it was a mystery wrapped in terror. Would they find safety on the other side? Or would they plunge deeper into the nightmare that awaited? The answer loomed closer than they could imagine, waiting just out of reach. Jack's stomach twisted as he pushed the door a fraction wider, the air from the other side hitting him like a wave of suffocating heat. With Clarissa still gripping his hand tightly, he had to focus. Their ears strained for any hint of movement from the searching men. "On three," he whispered, feeling the weight of the moment hang heavy. 1, 2, 3. They slipped through the door, holding their breath as they stepped into a dimly lit corridor. The walls seemed to close in around them, and Clara's nails dug into his palm like a vice. The corridor stretched into blackness ahead of them, each step echoing ominously beneath their feet. "We have to keep moving," Jack urged, his mind racing. Adrenaline surged, raw and electric, pushing him further into the fray. Just as they reached the end of the hallway, the growling sound erupted again, loud and furious. It wasn't just a sound, it felt like a living thing, hungry and powerful. Jack's spine straightened as he turned instinctively to Clarissa, her pale face reflecting his own terror. "Jack, we can't keep going like this." She gasped, fear tightening her voice. "What is chasing us?" He didn't have an answer. Each possibility felt worse than the last. But there was no turning back. They had to outrun the danger, whatever it was. "Keep moving," he urged again, leaning closer to her. The glow from a distant exit sign flickered tantalizingly, a beacon amidst impending doom. "We have to get out of here." Taking a deep breath, he activated his instincts, leading her further down the winding hallway. It twisted like a snake, seeming to shift and elongate as they ran. Jack could feel the temperature drop, a chill stealing through the air, sending goosebumps racing down his arms. "Did you hear that?" Clarissa's voice was barely a croak, anxiety strangling her words. A rumble resonated from deep within the shadows, thrumming through the corridor like a warning. "Just keep going." Jack growled, forcing focus despite the dread clawing at his gut. Fear of the pursuit was one thing, but the growing darkness promised something else entirely, and then they stopped. Ahead, a doorway stood ajar. The exit sign hummed a soft light against the black surrounding them, but Jack froze, his instincts flaring. Something was off. "Jack." Clarissa's voice, wavering at the edge of panic, curled around him. "Stay behind me," he ordered softly, edging forward toward the door. He could see shadows dancing just beyond. It felt wrong, as if danger lurked just out of sight, watching, waiting. Jack pushed it open another inch and peered beyond. The room beyond was empty, but something glinted dully in the far corner. A metal object, sharp and glistening in the low light. His gut churned. It was either a weapon, or their ticket for escape. "Jack, we have to." Clarissa started, but he silenced her gently. He needed to know what lay ahead, how to flip the script in their favor. Suddenly, the guttural growl erupted again, this time sounding much closer. The floor trembled beneath him. Jack's heart raced as terror washed over them both. "Go!" he shouted, racing through the door, dragging Clarissa with him. They stormed into the room, eyes darting, adrenaline pumping. "Where's the exit?" she gasped, scanning wildly. I don't know." he stammered, dread creeping up his spine. He needed a plan, an escape route, but before he could strategize further, the air crackled with energy, filling him with a sense of imminent dread. From the shadows, ugly forms began to emerge, shifting like smoke given life, darker and stranger than anything he had imagined. "Jack!" Clarissa screamed, their last thread of hope fraying as she stepped back, pulling him with her. "We have to fight it." he shouted back, but deep down, they both sensed it, the vile presence slithering closer. Time hung thick in the air, a dark curtain of uncertainty that would ensnare them if they didn't act swiftly. But just then, something flickered in the darkness, a barely visible outline of movement, something that felt even worse than the growl. "What is that?" Jack wondered aloud, panic surging as he realized the shadows were not just moving toward them, they were changing shape. The beast was near, and they were far from safe. For the first time, Jack understood. This was about far more than survival. "Whatever you do, don't let go of my hand," he said, feeling the weight of every second as he prepared himself to face whatever horror lay ahead. As the shadows lunged, he braced for the confrontation, trembling with dread and fury. What shadows awaited them in the darkness? Could they confront the horror, or were they merely stepping into the jaws of despair? The moment the shadows lunged, the world around Jack seemed to freeze. Time distorted as darkness collided with reality. He felt the pressure of Clarissa's hand in his, a lifeline amidst the chaos. He could see the indistinct shapes swirling, merging, transforming into something monstrous and unthinkable. "Get back!" Jack shouted, his voice cutting through the thick veil of fear. He took a step forward, adrenaline sharpening his instincts. Clarissa stumbled backwards, her face painted with terror, but he couldn't let go. Not now. The shadows writhed, their forms coiling and curling, dark claws reaching out as if they were a living entity hell-bent on consuming them. Jack's gaze flicked to the sharp object that had caught his eye earlier. A shard of metal gleamed faintly in the dim light, its promise of salvation calling to him. "Clarissa, over there." "The shard." He gestured urgently. She glanced at the metal piece and nodded, understanding without needing to voice it. They had to defend themselves if they were to survive this nightmare. They needed a weapon. As Jack lunged toward the glinting blade, he felt the malevolent energy intensifying. The air swirled around them, thickening with an almost sentient hatred. He grasped the shard firmly, its coolness offering a momentary sense of security. "Stay close," he yelled, spinning to face the encroaching darkness. The growl returned, low and angry, vibrating through the very bones of the building. Jack could almost see the translucent beasts quivering with anticipation. Before he could calm his frayed nerves, the shadows lunged again, snapping at him like hungry wolves. Jack swung the metal shard, barely connecting with one of the billowing forms. It screeched, a sound that cut like glass in his ears, and recoiled, momentarily pushed back. "Keep moving," he urged, pulling Clarissa toward the back of the room where a flickering light illuminated another door. But as they sprinted, the shadows renewed their assault, shifting in fluid motions, swirling around their legs. Jack kicked at the darkness, desperation fueling his strength, while Clarissa screamed, unnerved by the ghastly crawling forms that tried to ensnare them. "Don't look back." Just run. Jack commanded, his heart pounding like a war drum against his ribcage. The doors surged closer, each step strenuous as unseen hands clawed at their ankles, holding them back. Clarissa stumbled, her foot caught in the thick dark tendrils. Jack instinctively grabbed her, yanking her free, but not without feeling a rancid cold brush against his skin. Go! He yelled, the panic rising as he felt a shuddering tremor beneath his feet, a warning that the very foundation trembled with malevolent power. They broke through the door, slamming it behind them, but the deafening growls persisted, seeping through cracks around the frame. The room they entered felt different, charged with oppressive energy. The walls pulsed as if they were alive, colors dancing eerily, creating a sickening wave that twisted his stomach. Where are we? Clarissa whispered, stepping cautiously forward, her eyes wide with fear. Jack scanned their surroundings, every instinct screaming that danger was still close by. There were no obvious exits, just endless walls adorned with strange symbols that seemed to shift and morph with each blink. I don't know. His voice faltered as a realization crept in. This room felt like a trap, designed to hold them. Panic surged again, clawing at his throat. Suddenly, the shadows outside coalesced into a single monstrous figure, vast and grotesque. It paused, sensing the change in the air before it barreled through the door. Jack! Clarissa shrieked, horrified that he held the metal shard tightly, heart racing as he struggled to keep the terror from overwhelming him. Instinct guided him as he looked for anything that could help. Stay behind me, he demanded. But clarification fled his thoughts when, from the shadows, the figure spoke, its voice a chilling whisper that echoed through the room like a secret barely told. You shouldn't have come here. Jack's breath caught in his throat. That voice, he knew it. Leave her alone, he shouted, stepping protectively in front of Clarissa, but doubt wormed its way into his heart. The truth hung in the air, heavy and accusing, fully aware of what Jack had unwittingly awakened. What had he stumbled into? What dark past was surfacing now? With a flash of realization, Jack confronted the chilling truth: this was bigger than them. The shadows had intentions, and so did the monstrous figure now standing before them, waiting to reveal a secret that could shatter everything Jack thought he knew. What lay behind that sinister visage? Was there a way to escape the web they found themselves ensnared in? Jack's grip on the shard tightened as the figure stepped into the flickering light. It was taller than any man he'd ever seen, shrouded in shadows that twisted like smoke around its form. A tattered cloak hung loosely, and its face, if it could be called that, was a featureless void, a dark space where eyes should have glowed. Who are you? Jack managed, forcing the words out despite the heaviness in his chest. That it chuckled, a sound that rumbled like thunder yet felt cold, slicing through the air. You have awakened what was meant to remain sleep. This place was sealed for a reason. Sealed? Clarissa said breathlessly, her voice thin like a whisper. What do you mean? The figure took a step forward, and the room seemed to shiver with the movement, shadows stretching and waving as if responding to its presence. This is a prison for you. A bolt of fear shot through Jack. For us? What are you talking about? The figure raised a skeletal finger, gesturing towards the symbols that danced on the walls. These are the seals of your fate. Each mark tells a story, and yours is written in blood, Jack. Jack's heart pounded. How could it know his name? What blood? We didn't do anything. He was shouting now, losing his grip as panic swirled like the shadows surrounding him. Your past binds you to this curse, the figure hissed, voice scraping across Jack's nerves like nails on chalkboard. It leaned closer, its breath, if it could be called that, felt like a freezing wind against Jack's face. The price to be free is steep. You must confront your choices, face the darkness within. Clarissa tugged at Jack's sleeve, her face pale and drawn, eyes wide. Jack, what does it mean? What darkness? He could barely speak. The shadows pressed against him, their weight suffocating, and he felt the walls closing in. In that moment, memories crept forward, moments he thought long buried. Regret turned his stomach. Jack, don't! Clarissa exclaimed, pulling him back as he took a hesitant step toward the figure. "Don't listen to it. Your destiny awaits," it rasped. "I can guide you to the truth, but the cost is yours alone to bear." "No!" Jack shouted, rage flaring as he held the shard aloft, its metal gleaming defiantly in the dim light. "You're lying. We won't let you control us." The air around them crackled, and the figure laughed again, a chilling sound that echoed in the void. "Control is not what I seek. I merely unearthed the choices you have buried. Faces you have forgotten. Faces." Jack's chest tightened as fragments of the past flashed in his mind, moments with a woman he had loved, a life torn apart by mistakes. "Your son needs you," the figure said, its tone teasing like a whispering wind. "But you must decide. Are you willing to face the truth, or will you let fear keep you shackled here?" Clarissa's grip on Jack tightened. "We can't trust it. We need to get out of here." Jack looked at her, the anguish in her eyes fueling his resolve. "No. I need to know." He stepped back, preparing to confront the entity, the shadows swirling around him like a storm. Clarissa gasped, but didn't pull him back. Jack sensed the gravity of the moment. The figure was more than darkness, it was a mirror reflecting every mistake, every choice he had ever made. "I will listen," Jack declared, the words escaping his lips before he could second-guess himself. "Show me what I need to face." The figure smiled, a shift of darkness that somehow felt like a revelation. "Very well, then. Embrace the maker of your chaos." With a swift motion, the figure raised a hand, and the brightness around Jack exploded. The shadows twisted violently, consuming everything until he felt weightless, and then he landed not in the room but in a new space, a familiar yet unsettling setting. "Jack!" A soft voice called out. It was her, the woman from his past stood before him, looking as real as the desperation clawing at his heart that he took a step, but the ground trembled and split beneath him. "No!" Jack shouted as he teetered on the edge of a yawning chasm. "Welcome back," the woman said, a sorrowful smile playing on her lips. "Let us talk. About your son. What was happening? Did he have what it took to face her?" His heart raced as darkness bubbled beneath. A truth loomed, waiting to engulf him, pulling him toward the edge of understanding or destruction. But was he ready for the answers he sought? Jack felt like his heart was going to explode as the woman's presence washed over him. It was Clarissa, yet so much more than the haunting ghost of his memories. Here stood the mother of his child, his first love, the one who had vanished into thin air years ago. He gasped, crashing into memories he had locked tight in a corner of his mind. "Jack." Her voice was soft but laced with an urgency that made his stomach churn. "You're here at last." He stammered, trying to grasp the tight knot of emotion in his chest. "Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" Anger curled around his words, hot and fierce. "Because I was scared," she replied, her eyes filling with tears. "I was scared of everything, of being a mother, of losing you, of everything we couldn't control." All the hurt he'd carried for years began to seep to the surface like an open wound. "So you just ran? You left me to find out on my own?" "I thought it was best for you and for Alex," she whispered, her voice cracking. "But I was wrong. I didn't know who else to turn to, where to go." Reality twisted around them as the chasm beneath him cracked wider. Jack's breath hitched. "What do you mean, who else to turn to? Who's been keeping you away?" The ground trembled and shadows clawed at the edges of the chasm, shadows that felt alive as if mocking the shattered dreams they birthed. "You need to understand," she said, stepping closer, their darkness connected to everything the past isn't just haunting, it's chasing. "There are forces that want to keep us apart, to control our destinies." He absorbed her words like punches, thoughts scattering chaotically. Jack could feel Clarissa's warmth slipping, the shadows closing in tighter. His mind spun, their choice to reunite ignited dangers they never deserved. Is this why that man warned us? Why he threatened us? Yes. She exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to drag you back into this. I thought I could protect you and Alex by staying away, but they are here, waiting. His heart raced, and a pulse of determination surged within him. No more running. We have to fight. Jack, she started, but he cut her off with a fire he hadn't felt in years. Whatever it takes, we're doing this together. He clasped her hands, feeling the tremor in them. She was his anchor, and the shadows seemed to shrink back at the weight of their bond. Suddenly, the figure emerged from the darkness behind her, towering and ominous, its void-like face now piercing through the encroaching shadows. You are right, Jack. You do have a choice. Face the darkness, you either conquer it or become part of it. Gathering his courage, Jack straightened. What do you want from us? Why can't you just leave us alone? The figure's voice coiled through the air, it was almost a taunt. In reunion, you have awakened dormant energies, awakening the past that should have remained buried. You must make a sacrifice. A sacrifice? The word bounced off the walls of his mind. What kind? Trust in your pain. Relinquish what binds you, only then can your son be free. Every unanswered question, every piece of guilt, it is all tied to this curse. No. Clarissa shot back, raw panic tinging her voice. We want to play your game. The growl erupted once more, rattling the ground beneath their feet, sending vibrations through their bodies. Panic flared as shadows began to creep closer, constricting around them like snakes closing in. You have until the count of 3, the figure warned. Choose wisely. Jack, Clarissa's hands gripped his tighter. I want to let you go through with this. We can find another way. He took a deep breath, struggling to manage the tempest of emotions flooding him. I don't know what's right. But I want to sacrifice you again, Clarissa. Not now. No. You're not losing your life for my mistakes. She cried, her voice raw with desperation. Fear coiled inside him, each second stretched across a gaping abyss of chaos. The shadows crested closer, their growl harmonizing into a low rumble that echoed inside his head. 3. The figure's voice boomed, time slipping away like sand through his fingers. Then, clarity crashed over him, spilling forth like sunlight through dark clouds. Let us face it together. We've been apart too long. We don't have time for fear. With a steely gaze, he turned to Clarissa, his heart resolute. Together. With one unified pulse, they clasped hands tightly, letting their fears wash over them like a tide. We name the past and confront our darkness, Jack called out, feeling the shadows recoil at their combined strength. We will not be your pawns. Beneath the clamor of the shadows and the echoing growls, a golden light flared, pulsing between them, ripping through the curtain of despair. No. The figure screamed as the light expanded, engulfing their reality, igniting into warmth that melted shadows like morning sun.as. The darkness dissolved, Jack felt the weight lifting, memories of fear and regret casting away. In its place clarity, a bond woven through pain and understanding. Finally, silence filled the air, charged with a trembling peace. Jack. Clarissa's voice carried a hopeful tremor, as her eyes sparkled with wonder. Did we make it? Jack looked around, the oppressive shadows retreating into nothingness, replaced by a vibrant glow. I think we did. Before them stood a pathway, a road leading out of darkness into a blooming landscape. Hand in hand, they took a step forward, one foot in front of the other, together again. As they moved into the light, Jack breathed deep, feeling a new future unfolding before them. Their fight wasn't over, but they finally found their way back to each other, and that meant everything. Let us find Alex, he said, his heart surging with renewed determination. Yes. Together, Clarissa affirmed, her heart echoing alongside his as they walked toward a brighter tomorrow, at last free to embrace the family they had fought so hard to reclaim, and in that moment, hope shimmered. The shadows were gone, replaced by the radiant promise of a new beginning. That if you've enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories we have in store. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support for this amazing community. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your voice matters, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this powerful conclusion. Join us on this exciting journey. Your support keeps the stories coming.